Hi, everyone. My name is Megan. I'm a PM at Slack. And previously, I worked at Heroku. I've spent the last few years of my career working pretty much exclusively on developer products. So I don't know a ton about bots, but I do know a lot about, or a good deal about, building for developers. And so that's what my focus is today. So I'm really into developer tools. I think that efficient developer tools are what basically drives the creation of awesome products. And so that's part of the reason why I'm really excited about Slack, and also why I want to give this talk today. So again, Slack. Okay, so Slack has been really successful recently, and this is really awesome because it's a great time to work at a company when it's taking off. And the great thing about that for what's relevant to this conversation about bots is that we are, wow, I'm sorry. I just got extremely nervous, so I'm gonna reset and go back. Anyways, okay. Thanks, everyone. Okay. So basically what I wanted to talk to you about today is how we manage change at Slack. And Slack has been really successful over the last year, which basically means that we have tons and tons of new customers coming online every day, and we have more apps that are getting installed, and everything's going really well. So the problem that thus arises here is, as we have different types of customers joining the platform and new types of apps, new problems emerge with our existing APIs, and we inevitably have to make some changes. But ultimately, the developer API is, or the developer platform rather, is the key to Slack's success. We see the platform as a key part of our business strategy, and making developers successful in the platform is really important for us going forward. So how do we think about this problem here, which is how might we continue to support and sustain developers on Slack's platform? So when I thought about this key problem, I came to these three main conclusions. So the first thing that I thought we should probably do is establish a common language or common objectives with our developer community. The second thing that I think platforms ought to do is share what we know. And what I mean by this is one of the key problems when you have a platform is basically around asymmetric information. And if you are building an app on a platform, you really don't know how long that platform will stick around. You don't know what the ultimate outcome will be of that company, but you're taking a big leap of faith. So how can we make you more confident in us? And then the third thing is keep that conversation going between the platform and the developer community. And these are the three solutions I posit are helpful for maintaining resilient developer platforms, and what I want to talk about today. So let's talk about establishing a common objective. So the reason you set up a platform business is for this virtuous cycle. The idea is that you get customers because your core product is awesome and everyone wants to use it. Then you open up an API for developers. They start building really exciting tools. Your customers become more capable because the tools that your developers are building fill the holes in your product. They make your product more extensible, more powerful. They connect it to services that your customers use all the time. So, in Slack parlance, it's like Slack becomes the operating system for work, and it's central to our customers' work days. And then those customers get really excited about Slack. They go around to all their friends. They go to their D&D groups, and they're like, hey guys, we really need Slack for our planning, and I'm not going to play D&D anymore until we have Slack. They do this kind of thing all the time, and eventually everyone gets the idea that Slack is great and building for Slack is great. And then you ultimately get new bots, new use cases, new customers, and you take off. The thing that I really like about framing the enterprise bot platform through the virtuous cycle is that it makes it really clear to developers and to the PMs and engineers who work on the Slack platform that we're all aligned around the same goal. And so I found this quote from one of our partners really heartening. This was from a blog post that was written on the Slack platform blog, and I'll let you read it for a second. But basically, this demonstrated to me that the fact that we are all aligned towards building a better experience for customers has really gotten through to our community. And the key part here is about this quote that I really liked was that basically when we build features, it might be possible for a developer to build a feature that's better than the one we built. So for example, when we opened up calls, we also had third-party calls because some customers may not use the Slack calls platform. They may prefer BlueJeans or something like that. And we think that's totally okay. And it's not that we don't think it's totally okay just because we want everyone to use the best technology out there. I mean, ideally we do think that, but also our revenue goals map to it. The virtuous cycle maps to us being able to really give the best technology to our customers because our customers stay on the platform anyway, and particularly if they have access to the powerful tools. But the thing I want what I want to call out in this quote is this comment at the end, which is, don't exert your power over the platform to unfairly win over customers. And and that's where we get into the part about sharing what we know. As I said before, we have this key problem on platforms, which is asymmetric information. And for that, I want to give an example of what we do quarterly at Slack, which is we go over our customer feedback. So one of the big pieces of asymmetric information in the platform setup is that our customers don't know, broadly speaking, the problems that our developers don't know, broadly speaking, the problems our customers are facing. And this could be as specific as the vast majority of Slack platform users don't know what a slash command, or Slack users don't know what a slash command is. Like, they're not from IRC, it's like a little bit of a foreign concept. And maybe if you build a really interactive app that's totally built around slash commands, a lot of people, like if you, a lot of people sort of that are tech adjacent might be able to pick up your app really quickly, but the average person might not. And that's something you might not know. And I think it's incumbent upon us as the Slack platform team to sort of share this type of information. But one of the key reasons why I want to put out this slide, which again is from this customer feedback session that we do quarterly at Slack, is frankly because I wanted to sort of explain how we think about sharing information to our developer base. When I look at this slide, and I added the highlighting, by the way, when the customer feedback team gave it to us, they didn't have highlighting on it. I feel a little bit lightheaded. Like, what the hell did we do last year? Everything's broken. People are completely confused. And part of the reason they're super confused about Slack, for example, is when you install a bot, which is its own entity, it's its own user on Slack, it's endemically connected to the person who installed it. So if that person leaves your team, it just goes away. And this is one example of a problem that we've had on the platform that our developer community might be kind of aware of, but it's really hitting our customers. So one of the big things that we're working on right now at Slack is thinking about how we might change our installation methods so that you don't have to bind your app to the installer. And the reason I bring this up is that this is a great example of what would constitute a breaking change to some of our current applications. And I wanted to talk about how we thought about it. So the one thing that comes to mind at first when we propose this on the platform team, it's like, how do we think about changing the installation model so that we don't rely on this like tenuous connection between the installer and the bot, especially because the way people use bots is pretty communal. And the one thing that we thought about a lot was the migration strategy. And so one of our key ways of mitigating problems around change is by making sure that we articulate from the very beginning within our platform PM group and within our engineering group, what would be either the migration strategy or the way for developers just to seamlessly move onto the new protocol if there were to be one. And so that's like something that we think about from the very beginning of projects. So the key message here too is that whenever we consider a breaking change, first we write the API docs, and then we make sure we share them. Because ultimately, internally, we are experts on our platform. We know how it works, from the Java through PHP, through JavaScript. We get it, but we don't totally know what it's like to consume it. And so the first thing we try to do with every breaking change is make sure that our developers, particularly our close partner developers, know what's up. The other thing we do to help mitigate the problem of asymmetric info is we have our 2 Trello boards that are public and include information about things that we know our platform needs. So for example, the platform roadmap for developers, or also ideas for different types of apps that you might want to build for Slack. So we know, for example, if one vertical is underperforming, not necessarily underperforming, but could use additional support, and so we try to make a point to make that information public. The last thing that we try to do is stay in an engaged conversation with our developers. And one of the ways we do that is over Twitter. We have, this is a really specific example about having a conversation. One of our PMs was like, hey, what are we doing better? What could we be doing better? And we had a conversation about bot admin tools, which is this is a great way to access us. But really the better way would be through our Slack Slack teams, and through also our DevRel communities and our meetups. Maintaining that connection with your developer community is super important because it helps us when we make changes that the developer community isn't super receptive to or has questions about. It helps for us to have that open line of communication so we can immediately get feedback. So I wanted to close my talk with this quote from Barack Obama, because I think it's a super useful way for me to think about how I would ideally want conversations around developer platforms to work. And the whole thought is sometimes we'll make decisions that seem totally out of left field. They won't make sense, or they will seem counterintuitive. And there are a couple of things that I think are useful to think about. So from the beginning, if we keep aligned on the virtuous cycle, if we sort of all understand that in this type of context, what we're really aiming for is building for customer success, then we can have all of our conversations about changes predicated on this ultimate goal of making Slack better for customers and making apps better for customers. And that, I think, is super helpful to frame any problems. So the whole message that I want to take from this quote is that if we keep it about the work, and the work for Slack is making people's lives simpler, more pleasant, and more productive, then we always have a way forward. And I think this is particularly true for developer communities. Even if, we will make mistakes, and we will try to fix them, and we will work with our communities to resolve problems, but ultimately, the goal would be to always keep our problems about the work, because I think that if we stay aligned around our ultimate goals, we'll more than likely reach a good conclusion. So I wanted to frame the entrance into the next breakout session, which is through this sort of lens of, imagine in 5 years you built an app on Slack or a bot on Slack, and it is incredibly successful. You have a multi-million-dollar SaaS business on top of Slack. You are keynoting every SaaS conference ever on. You're sleeping at Botness. Botness is 5,000 people, and you are keynoting it because of your incredible success. What happened? What did we do to help you? This is kind of a selfish question because I really want us to be successful, and I want to help everyone else be successful. So, but more than that, like I think as a community, this is a broader question. How do all of these platforms help bot developers succeed in a really impactful and high-value way? So that's the sort of call to action I'd like to leave you with. Thank you for bearing with me, and thanks for having me speak.